Content warnings for this episode. Blood and gore, bright flashes, loud noises, warped anatomy, empty sockets, and animal cruelty. Please be aware. And now on to the episode. Hello there, and welcome back to Let's Play Sekiro. We are in Fountainhead Palace, the endgame area for Sekiro. So again, spoilers abound. I forgot to use the memory last episode to get True Monk's Remnant. And in this episode, I have a lot of history to talk about. I'm sure everyone loves history, right? You love learning? I guess you're watching this. And I teach more than first grade history, so there we go. Also, you can see all the waterways, flow of water again. You can track how it flows throughout Ashina. Now, don't worry, I have a script for this episode to help me with all of my historical anecdotes. Don't worry. Yep, just scrolling through all of these papers. Which, by the way, it's actually just totally done in a Google Doc. The papers are just Foley work. I hope you enjoyed that sound effect for fun, and it doesn't sound terrible over the mic. But what? Hey, this is a Miss Noble. And I got enfeebled. So this is a status effect or ailment. It makes it so you can't do anything, really. You can, I think, press block, you can attempt to dodge, and you can attack is about it. Now, I was actually kind of surprised here because I've done a lot of enfeebled combat testing, but I think I was on New Game Plus, so I had enough damage to stagger them and posture break them in one hit. Seemingly on just New Game, you don't have enough attack power to do that, so I just died. When enfeebled, you can't revive. Your health is reduced, so one hit will kill you. Any single hit will kill you. You can actually death blow from behind the nobles, but only them. It doesn't work on any other enemy, as far as I've seen in testing. Well, let's try to get across in the water. Which, oh, well, that's not good. Water plus lightning is a very bad thing. So you can reversal this lightning, but I wasn't allowed to press the button for some reason. So this lightning will only get thrown at you from up there if you enter the water. I've been testing lightning reversal from water. It doesn't seem to really work. You end up throwing lightning into the water you're landing back into. Weirdly, when you dive underwater, seemingly, there are invincibility frames. The lightning lasts so long that it hits you and shocks you anyway, so it's not helpful. But it's kind of funny. You can actually get through this area and skip this entire zone by moving fast and in certain patterns in the water. I'll be showing that off later. That is actually caused by a boss up there called Shizu. Now, this whole area is full of these guys that enfeeble. These are the Palace Nobles, or Minamoto. The Minamoto are a clan or family from Japan. They were around during the Heian era and were involved heavily with the Kamakura Shogunate. And were, in fact, parts of the family. So, I'm going to be talking a lot about that. These are something we have yet to see, but we've seen descendants of them. These are the Okami Warrior Women. They have blue skin and elongated necks, and they wear no masks and like to giggle. Their armor is actually an older style from like the Heian era and the Kamakura period, which, as you may guess, that's kind of what everything here is based upon, and Nijo Palace. This area seems heavily based upon Kyoto, and it makes me wonder if maybe Ashina is supposed to be there. There are a few places Ashina could possibly be around Kyoto, perhaps a bit south or northeast of it are possibilities. I was talking with Vex. She thinks that they're in the northeast of Japan, and they do mention that Ishin is the ruler in the north, which that could mean that, and towards the, I don't think quite as far as Hokkaido, but in that direction. could be southeastern. I don't really think anything states it being more western, really. Now, the Okami Warrior Women will instantly get stunned if you hit them with Sabimaru poison. Also, that grapple point statue, it will be important later. The Okami Warrior Women are kind of tough. Now, as you may note, they fight in a similar style to Genichiro. Genichiro's master was Tomoe. Now, I have hinted at it, but Tomoe is seemingly an Okami, judging by all descriptions of her, and her fighting style and use of Spiral Cloud Passage. Now, Tomoe is also the name of a Japanese folk hero, Tomoe Gozen. Tomoe Gozen fought during the Genpei War. This was, let's see, early, I think it was 1100s? I'll have to double check my notes in just a moment. Be right back. So hopefully you won't hear any of the clicking. I'm hoping my voice will be able to cover over that. So to talk a little bit more about the Minamoto, the Kamakura, the Taira, and Tomoe. Now, Tomoe served the Minamoto. She, as far as we know, if she is a real person, didn't do too much. She's just really famous for being, like, during the Genpei War, a female samurai or female warrior or onebu geisha. We don't actually know what her specific role was. She just kind of appears in the Tales of the Heike, or Heike. In it, she is told to leave Minamoto Yoshinaka. He is completely defeated, the enemy is coming, and she agrees to, but not before basically killing some jerks. They come forward, she beheads a samurai, and then kind of escapes and then disappears from history. This is a part of why it's unclear whether or not she really existed. Seemingly she did, she's mentioned, but we don't really have records of her birth or her name per se, other than just this historical story of the Genpei War. Now, the Minamoto took over in 1185. So, as I was saying, I said early 1100s, it's late 1100s. I was wrong about the date from memory. Damn it, I was so close. So, they were the ones who helped set up the shogunate, the Bakufu, as it was called, of the Kamakura. Now, this is sort of the time in the Heian era, the Kamakura period, of what these Okami warriors and the Minamoto Palace here in Fountainhead is seemingly based upon. And the term Minamoto basically means like spring or area water comes from. Mibu, as far as I know, means aquatic, and the area here is actually called Mibu Manor. Mibu Village down there is actually not the only Mibu. This is Mibu up here also. And these are sometimes called the waters of Mibu, as far as I know, in the Mibu balloon descriptions, which talk about the waters from Fountainhead. So, seemingly they have a relation. I'm not entirely sure. And a thing to also note is the Minamoto, a huge thing for them, was marrying into the imperial lines. That's how they secured their power under their previous name. So what they would do is go to the imperial line and the emperor and offer their daughters for marriage. And they secured their power this way, in essence making it so that the imperial line was the Minamoto line, or at least heavily mixed with it. So they could control what the emperor wanted, the orders of the court, the power and influence the court can exert. Now, eventually, they kept trying to keep things as peaceful as possible. This didn't go super well. the power of them kind of really waned and went in favor of the shogunate. Now, I'm trying to remember the name of the kami. I believe it's Hachiman, that the Minamoto claimed heritage from, or the god, who was a god of war in Japan. He was a famed archer. And that kind of fits in again with how the Okami are portrayed, and also the rise of the samurai as horseback archers. That was a main function of theirs, was missile cavalry. This was something that was supremely useful and is useful throughout the history of Eastern Europe and Asia. That is, again, like the Mongol armies. That was a huge, huge boon to them. Though it also makes it harder to hold territory, but you can also just have infantry alongside them and other forms of cavalry. So the Minamoto came to power after their battles with the Taira clan. They were a rival, and during the Heian period they fought quite a lot until the Genpei War. That war is kind of what decided things, and the Kamakura and the Minamoto lasted quite a while until things just kind of fell apart because of all the fighting, until eventually the Hojo were pretty much who I think were left behind. And then eventually the Ashikaga took over and founded the Ashikaga Shogunate, which lasted into the Sengoku era until towards the end of it, it pretty much dissolved due to the acts of Oda Nobunaga and Toyotomi Hideyoshi. And Toyotomi Hideyoshi became imperial regent after the death of Oda Nobunaga and after conquering everything during the Kyushu conquest, and fighting the Mori and securing the East and West and fighting the Hojo at Odawara Castle. And then eventually, of course, Tokugawa took over after the Battle of Sekigahara and then secured his power by completely decimating the Toyotomi clan and family during the Osaka campaign in 1615. Sekigahara was 1600. After this point, Tokugawa pretty much unchallenged rule, and the emperor could not even dare question him. If the emperor did, Tokugawa would probably just kill him. There would be nothing stopping him, pretty much. Now, it should be mentioned that during this period of the Kamakura Shogunate, which Fountainhead appears to be based upon, is sort of when Buddhism was becoming more prosperous. But Fountainhead here seems very closed off, isolated. Like, it has not mixed with Buddhism per se. Things here seem far more Shinto and traditional Japanese, without as much of the influence of Buddhism. Now, the creatures here and people here have been drinking the Fountainhead waters, the waters of the palace. We'll be picking up that item later, actually, in this episode. Now, it seems to cause them to take on some fish-like traits. They appear to lose their eyes and have empty eye sockets. They possibly gain limbs. Their skin turns like blue, light blue, and it seems to affect their hair color. Many here have black hair and gray hair and white hair, and hairs that are turning gray or white. So this is seemingly a normal human. A bride sent up here, or a descendant of some sort, but she doesn't resemble the Okami. It's not really explained how this works. She is related to the nobles. Her father is a noble in essence. But I'm not sure exactly what she is, if she's just a normal human that happens to be up here, or how that happened. Perhaps her father married a normal human, and that's how she was created, which is seemingly how this works. Or her father was a normal human and had her, and then became more of the noble. It's not totally clear, but we'll be listening to her and her quest and desire for us to free her father from the trappings of the Fountainhead Palace and nobility.
お若いお人、お気をつけください。宮の貴族たちは 若い世紀に乾いています。吸いたくて吸いたくて仕方がないのです。
ああ。
特にこの先、中庭は鬼門です。宮の貴族がわらわらと。先に進むなら外周を回られた方がよろしいです。
なぜ俺に？
お若いお人に一つ頼みがございまして。
なんだ？
父のことです。我が父は貴族になりましたが、その時恋に見入られてしまいました。もうずっとただ恋に餌をやっています。お若いお人、どうか父を恋の呪縛から解き放ってください。あのような永遠は父の望みではありませんでした。
So, also here a little bit of Carp stuff. Kintaro captures the Carp. I'll talk more in the episode about the Great Colored Carp, about Kintaro and stories of the Carp, and the Carp climbing the waterfall and jumping the gate to become a dragon, which that's a story I had not known about. I was told about it by Miyabi, who, again, very helpful, very knowledgeable. So here are the Yumi of the Okami Warrior Women. This area has a lot of symbols of birds, of bamboo leaves, of lotus. Now, I thought I should mention the Kami Hachimen is actually sort of depicted often atop some sort of flower that looks like a lotus, at least to me. It looks quite similar to a lot of Buddhist art, but this is actually a Shinto god, not a Buddhist god. As far as I know, though, their imagery might have similar roots, perhaps? I don't know too much about Hachiman. I will be talking about him later as I do more research. Again, I actually am reading articles and essays and going through academic papers and things to study all this. Some are harder to find, like things about the straw dolls. Something I can't remember if I forgot to mention at the start of this episode. The way the straw dolls are purified after they've absorbed evil like a sponge is by placing them in running water. Also, a close-up look at the Okami Warrior Women. They wear a sort of generic no mask. They also do some no dances and seem to put on plays. But there's also something that others have noticed. There are imperial court dances and art forms and forms of theater that they may be influenced by. It seems like there is a lot of different forms of theater and art and music that are inspiring the creatures of Fountainhead Palace. This area is a great place to get lumps of grave wax. The mist nobles or palace nobles drop them quite often. Every now and then there are bird cages in this area. Now, I have not spotted a cuckoo. That's something I've actually been looking for in all of the artwork. Perhaps there has been one and I just haven't spotted it. Oh yeah, to mention, this is a stealth section of the game. It's a bit more Metal Gear. There are these patrolling enemies right here. The most of the other ones don't really patrol much. These three do. This area, it's very dangerous to get spotted because you'll probably get enfeebled. If you get enfeebled, you're pretty much dead. Now, you can use Puppet to bypass much of this area. You can Puppet a few Okami warriors, and they'll take out pretty much everything alongside you. They'll absorb the enfeeblement, which doesn't affect NPCs, seemingly. You can actually use the palace nobles themselves for this. Now, Gachin will make this section much easier. You can almost just sprint through the whole thing with Gachin active. It's very handy. So this area is called Mibu Manor. There is more going on here. There's actually a boss over here to the side path that is a refight. There is a couple of refights here. It's not too big of a deal, really. Some of them are slightly different in ways. This is an older Okami warrior. She is wielding a Naginata. Now, her weapon is again associated with Onabu Geisha and warrior women of Japan, but was also used by men. It is just seen more as a woman's weapon. And a part of it is the idea that women are weak, which, no, you know, hormones can affect muscle buildup, and again, also, you know, didn't want to get too into it, but since we were just on the subject of like trans people exist and stuff, so not everyone's cis anyway. But in regards to this, the idea is that you need a weapon for a weaker person. Now, in a lot of media, we typically think of polearms as requiring more strength. You need more strength to wield a halberd than you do to wield a straight sword in video games and things. That's not actually how this works, because you have to understand the pole of the weapon is wooden, typically. Only the head of the weapon is metal. On top of that, when you're holding a weapon like that, you can use both hands and you have full leverage. You have the full length of the weapon giving you leverage that you can exert force with. That way, it actually requires less strength to exert more force than if you were using a one-handed weapon. One-handed swords technically weigh less, but feel heavier because you only have one hand holding it and you don't have the leverage supporting every swing. It's a concept that I guess is a little strange to think about for a lot of people, but it's kind of just physics. It's just kind of how our human anatomy works. Think about it being like, what is easier, carrying an 8-pound weight in one hand and doing 20 reps, or carrying, let's say, 16-pound weight in both hands as a barbell? Which is going to feel heavier to you? The one-handed one will. We can actually lift way more with two hands than we can with just a single hand. That's just kind of how that works. It's something, I don't know, media just doesn't seem to get. It's kind of like how drawing longbows actually requires a lot of power and strength. When people want to portray a character as like agile and weak, they give them a longbow, and the idea is, oh well, they're not up close strong, so they use a ranged weapon, but the longbow requires an immense amount of strength to use, to the point where it can screw up your body quite heavily if you use it for extended periods of time. So we've cleared out the palace, or well, the Mibu Manor. There are all sorts of designs in this area that are found in other parts of the game. There's actually some things here that are found in Hirata, like some of the designs on the clothing. As well, there is a lot of incense burners here, likely related to the Fountainhead aroma. There's also all of these glowing things that I don't know if they're supposed to be bugs or what. They're kind of around, they remind me a little bit of the glow of the phantom butterflies of Hidden Forest. Something a little odd here is the bark of the trees in this area is like peeling off. Like something either clawed at it or is just naturally peeling. Also, these lanterns are around where you find Tengu of Ashina. See what I mean about the bark? Now, as you can see here, the moon is visible. There's sakura trees around. They're in full bloom. We're getting close to the end of this episode. Next episode, I'm going to talk more about the sakura and sakura viewing in Japan, and how, if this game is 100% historically accurate, you'd be able to tell the week Sekiro takes place. Now, this is a little hidden area in the water. You can go down through this tunnel, get up here, get some treasure carp scales. In the chest ahead is the waters of the palace. That's what's given to people when they are married to the Okami, seemingly, when they come here. The description mentions this, and it seems to be what creates the palace nobles. We'll actually get to see that later. Possibly next episode, maybe the episode after, when I'm tying up a few things. But this is actually what the Mibu head priest required. But we are reaching the end of this episode. I will stop talking for now, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.